Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the headlines that the Supreme Court has denied an opportunity to reconsider the same-sex marriage decision of Obergefell. And I say headlines because this is a really prime instance of a case in which the press has a sort of breathless treatment of an issue or petition that people who know the court, and that's part of what I'm doing here, having clerked there twice and been an advocate, etc. Know from the start this case and petition had exactly zero chance of being granted. It's what I said when it was first filed a few months ago, and today in the orders issued in the morning, there was just a curt one-sentence petition denied. Now, why did the press gallop ahead, and why did the court really never give it a moment's thought? I think the press galloped ahead because just Obergefell and same-sex marriage, it was the first petition to come to them saying cleanly, you should overrule that. And it's catnip to the press because of the importance and prominence of the issue and the concern or prospect that the court would, in fact, have as its next demolition job, taking a wrecking ball to Obergefell. I actually, that's a whole separate issue. My best guess is that's not such a likely event, but it's really beside the point because the court takes cases that are well presented for the issue that the court wants to decide. And if you take a case that somewhere in there is lurking this issue, but it's not there cleanly, you're headed for a real problem when the time comes to actually argue it and decide. So Kim Davis, she is the clerk. Oh, and the other reason I think is Kim Davis has become a national media figure. She's the county clerk who refuses to issue marriage license to same-sex couples, even after the U.S. Supreme Court ordered her to do it. And so her case actually involves her being removed from her job, I think maybe briefly jailed for contempt. And she's bringing it now to the top level, to the Supreme Court, saying that action against me was unconstitutional. Why is that? Because Obergefell should be overruled. I'll get in a moment to why that's completely convoluted and nothing that would attract the Supreme Court. But an important point to remember that you can really get distorted or inaccurate treatment of cases, especially hot button ones, because the press just goes galloping in the direction of a known person. And Kim Davis really sticks to her guns and, will not be moved, etc. So we know her and it's a known issue. Okay. Why did people realize who knew the court this was never going anywhere? So, the court so the clerks, I can sort of frame it this way, actually write up memos on cases and the most important thing for the court is to advise them about how the issue comes up and if it's clean for their own resolution. Sometimes they can take cases, go into oral argument, realize, there's a mootness problem here, or this is just really a bad treatment of the issue. And so either they're stuck trying to wrestle with a not very good vehicle, or there's something called dismissed as improvidently granted. Now that we give it a real look, this is not the case for us. So when you're a clerk, you're telling them the issue, sure, but you're and let me just speak to that issue, which you have, Justice Thomas making it clear he thinks Obergefell should be overruled. Alito making clear that it's an issue to be considered. He hasn't gone as far as Thomas, etc. But it's the issue as a freestanding issue that you could see the court taking up Could also see the court not taking it up because if they're not going to overrule, why buy that trouble? That's a point for another day. So if you're advising, when the clerk memo would say something like, okay, here's that issue, but they want to know things like who decided, what court decided it, and are they a well-regarded court? What was there a dissent that would help serve it up? And especially, is it cleanly presented? And this is completely a mess, because what she's saying is you should overrule it and therefore undo all the problems that I brought on myself from just ignoring the Supreme Court. So imagine now this comes up and you're somebody who believes or wants at least to consider, should Obergefell be overruled? You're not going to get there, because the first thing you're going to have to consider is, they decide cases, not issues, right? So here you have a county clerk who just completely thumbs her nose at the U.S. Supreme Court and orders. That's going to be an independent reason for denying her claim. And you can't get around that point. You just can't pretend as the Supreme Court. Let's put this aside and think about what it would look like without it, because you decide cases with parties. That's part of the whole standing thing, real disputes and the full disputes. So she's got that. Then she wants to claim immunity as a county clerk. But the Supreme Court has ruled recently that you don't get that kind of immunity as a county clerk. So that's another reason that you'd have to hop over something else before you would get to Obergefell at the end. Third, she's a nut, and her petition is the product of a nut or a nut's lawyer. And I don't say it's true. I don't say that in a sort of political or polarizing way. I say it as you look at the petition and decide, is this the sort of sophisticated and nuanced version that if you're a court, you want to have in front of you to decide and really dig in deep about the issues here. And it is just not. It's just a polemical tract that just basically says she's being punished for her religious faith. And that's the fourth thing, by the way. It's the next level. It's not a cleanly presented. It's not the couple, for example, who were denied the opportunity to marry. That would be a very clean presentation of whether same-sex marriage is constitutionally mandated or whether Obergefell should be overruled. Instead, you have, again, a county clerk who wants to say, I shouldn't be punished because Obergefell could be overruled or should be overruled. So it's got 4, 5, 6 big problems, and a sort of, even superficial understanding of Supreme Court practice. They've got all the cases in all the country, and they can decide the ones they want and the ones they don't. So they'll often take a pass on a case presenting an issue that they're going to take, and they know they're going to take, but they want the best vehicle for it. And this one is about the worst. So the fact that this was denied says next to nothing about whether they're going to be looking to take up the issue. I think that question itself is debatable and in an interesting way, but this denial of Kim Davis's petition says nothing about it. And then I'll just close with the caveat or warning of Supreme Court hot button issues, tread carefully. It's the sort of thing that generalized big media company can really get wrong, and you need to have some measure of expertise. I think you will find on the cable shows stories about this, and yet in the way things really work in the Supreme Court, this was DOA, from way early and in its inception. So there you have it. It's denied. The press totally whiffs on it and gives people a false idea, sort of irresponsibly, but that's the way things can work, especially with arcane court issues. And the arcane issue here is the things that make it problematic, rather not the question itself. And then finally, and relatedly, this doesn't mean that the court has made a definitive decision that it doesn't want to reconsider Obergefell. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.